Hi, everyone. This is Nancy Marin, part of the SGX3 team that has brought you years of consulting support and training when it comes to the sustainability of science gateways. In this unit, I'm going to share with you just the basic way we think about what sustainability is and who it's for. This is one of a series of units that we've put together to give people a taste of what our training program is like. And we hope you'll enjoy this series and also hope that you'll find ways to join us for some of the other workshops and trainings we offer throughout the year. We often think about science gateways as portals that provide access to high performance computing, to very complex tools, to a huge amount of storage and complex data sets and actual data, things that permit scientists to do a range of things, whether it's analysis, run simulations, or again, just store vast amounts of information to publicly share it and share it with colleagues. There are wonderful examples over the last many years of lots of science gateways that do this. And that's really the heart of what SGX3 is set up to support. But we also understand that not all science gateways require the highest level of high performance computing or the most amount of storage or the most sophisticated scientific tools. A science gateway can be valuable even if it just serves to aggregate and support a community by sharing the data it needs and the information it needs. Sometimes this may look like teaching tools and open access learning objects. So one example of that is BioQuest and the CUBES project. It's also true that science gateways themselves don't necessarily need to be only for scientists. There are lots of science gateways that are created within the scholarly sector, but actually end up having big audiences far beyond the halls of academia. So one example of that is eBird, created by ornithologists, but also very, very popular as a citizen science project for lots of people without academic science backgrounds. And finally, not all science gateways are actually in the pure sciences. There are lots of important projects in all disciplines that have a similar mission of sharing research tools, the research itself, teaching materials, gathering community, and sharing all of this with a wide audience. These exist in a range of disparate fields, everything from history, art history, music, to philosophy, and much more. So in short, a science gateway is a platform that comes from the science or the academic community. It aggregates and shares, whether it's the tools, whether it's access to high performance computing, whether it's learning objects, it aggregates it, it shares it with a community of people who would not otherwise have access to it, whether these are fellow scientists or members of the public. But it's this gathering and widespread sharing and building of community around this work that makes something a science gateway. We've talked about sustainability of science gateways, and now you may know a little more about what a science gateway is, so probably we should talk about what sustainability is. With the wealth of important information that science gateways gather, all the effort that goes into building them, the years and years, and sometimes literally millions of dollars that go into building them, that's a lot of investment in every sense into creating these science gateways. So you would think surely for something this valuable, something this important to the future of research and human knowledge, there'd be an obvious solution to how to support and a fail-safe plan to make sure this material and these tools remain available to people for the long term. That's not exactly the case. It turns out that in many, many cases, the people who create the science gateways are actually, to some extent, responsible for coming up with a plan to making sure that those gateways keep running and that the materials and the tools that they provide remain available to people. This is very different from the way it was in the past. If you imagine, even today, if your aim is gathering and sharing knowledge, a few generations ago, you might have done that in an article or, let's say, a book in a monograph. The scholar would do the research, gather it, analyze it, think about it, write it up, but then hand it off to a publisher. And at that point, the publisher would do the distribution of it, send it out to the world. The libraries would buy it. They would put it on a shelf. They'd make sure it stayed safe, and they'd make sure that people had access to it. They might make sure there was a preservation plan in place so that the book itself, for example, or the journals would be available for generations. They'd have ways to find it for people, a card catalog back in the day. As we know today, very, very different. So all of the wonderful things that digital brings, one of the things it doesn't always bring us for gateways is a great plan for the ongoing support of what is now a complex, living, ongoing entity. So the old model, scholars' work was done at a certain point of publication, they could move on to the next project. If you have found yourself building a gateway, um, there's really no great handoff. Once that's built, the work is just beginning. And, these are living, evolving platforms. And with all the benefits that that brings, keeping the information and the tools current, updating and providing new information when it's available, increasing capacity and adding the tools as they are created. All that wonderful, um, all that's wonderful that comes with these new models of gateways also come with a very, very difficult question about how to support them. So, if you think about it, the builder of a science gateway is the new owner of a delightful and very energetic new puppy. Um, the personality may still emerge over time. There may be things that change, but that gateway is going to need ongoing care and feeding over a long time. And, and it's a very, very complex piece of work. And so that's what we hope to help you with. And that's what the challenge is for what is sustainability. But how do we define what we're talking about with something being sustainable? It can be easy to just lob around words like success or sustainable. This or that gateway is successful or sustainable. But that's a little bit too loose. It's too easy just to make ourselves feel good and say, gee, that looks like it's going well. What are the elements that characterize a gateway that is sustainable? So I have a couple of ideas to share to get the conversation started. Is longevity, is that evidence? If something's around for a long time, is it sustainable? Well, de facto, yes. In some way, yes, that's great. But we're not talking about, with a sustainability strategy, just persistence, because that can, in a worst case, just mean something is static and hasn't disappeared. And that's not really the kind of ongoing development and renewal that we think most gateway leaders will care about. So when we talk about sustainability, we're not just looking for how to preserve something and keep it frozen in time but available. That's an important piece of work, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about something a little more. Is it about having a big audience? It absolutely is. That having an audience that is deeply engaged is very important, but I'll mention that it's not just about having a large audience in terms of numbers. It's really important to have people who care. And so it's not ever to us and my colleagues to determine what the exact right number of a size of an audience would be for this or that project. It's very different project to project, and it's something we can work on with teams. But the point is, have you identified the community for whom your gateway is so valuable that it really is life-changing for them? It improves the work they do. It speeds up their ability to do their research and to create new knowledge. And if it disappeared, they would really care. It would be a disaster for them, and they'll let people know that. That's the kind of audience that you need, whether that's a few hundred, a few thousand, or a few million. So the number doesn't matter. It's the vitality that you demonstrate to the audience you need. Is sustainability about funding? We have a lot of money, so we're sustainable. Sure, funding is always going to be part of this equation. There's absolutely truth in that. Building and maintaining a gateway is costly in time and in materials and people's expertise. People need to be paid. So yes, there needs to be some source of funding, some source of money. But we'll also point out that it's not just about, thank goodness we just got one big grant, or thank goodness we just got a check from a great donor. We want to be thinking about all the sources of support that a gateway needs, because often there are lots of things that for now I'll just call other sources of support that are non-financial. Those things might look like the attention and time your audience spends contributing or engaging. There's nothing more valuable than your audience's attention. There's the volunteer time, people who may not be your direct users, but who for some reason love this project and want to participate in some way. And then there's also the reputation that you build over time. These are factors that will go into your overall sustainability plan. So those are all key aspects of it. What is it? So again, how do we define sustainability? And I'll share my working definition with you because hopefully this helps to explain that we're not just talking about sustainability as lasting for a long time or having enough money to keep going. I think about it as a cycle, and it's a renewable, recurring cycle that you will define for your own gateway. And I think about it as sustainability is the ability for you to generate or gain access to resources, whatever they are, be they financial or non-financial, that are going to help you keep protecting the value you have and increase the value of what you have to your users. Again, that leaves a lot of room for interpretation, but it's not just a thumbs up, thumbs down, we're sustainable or we're not. It's have we defined how we are going to keep investing in our gateway to make it so valuable that people will continue to come back and either give us their time, their money, or some combination of those things to help us keep it going. So sustainability, a recurring cycle of support, that's the gold standard, and that's what we want every project to be able to define for themselves. When the team at SGX3 runs Focus Week, that's what we work on. We define the aspects that go into sustainability strategy, and we work unit by unit on questions. We encourage people to articulate this for themselves. We have a series of exercises that helps to do this. And we ask them to state what their current assumptions are. We help them to challenge those assumptions and design research to go out and test those assumptions so that they can come up with a plan that really feels solid for them. In the next video, I'll share an example of this cycle of support so you can see a little bit more about what I'm talking about and how that plays out in an actual project.